What she said, I think, reveals more about the modern state of reporters who are given a beat to cover Democrats than anything. And that she says, she describes herself as a, quote, a journalist who's tired of writing the same story about how Democrats keep losing to Republicans and failing us, unquote.
Think about that. So here's the thing is, if you talk to a journalist, they'll tell you, listen, we are completely unbiased. We're saving democracy, just trying to bring the absolute truth to the American people. And here's the thing is sometimes we get tired of Dems losing, so we just have to run. Think about that.
He's Donald Trump's #1 enemy in Congress, Chicago Senator Dick Durbin. And now Dick Durbin has a new scheme, a government takeover of your credit card. Today, consumers have thousands of choices in credit cards, all with equal, strong security. But Durbin's plan is less competition and less security. And that means more risk for your credit and your identity. Tell Republicans in Congress, stop Dick Durbin's takeover of your credit card before it's too late.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Variety Program. Good Tuesday to you. I'm Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, left to right across your radio dial. We're getting into a whole bunch of things here, a big show in front of you. I think if I'm just sort of distilling this down in one way or another, what I'm looking at is Journos in the far left. There's a nexus.
Yeah, who'd have guessed? Who could have guessed?
That has once again sort of shown itself here to the outside world in very hysterical ways. I mean, very hysterical ways. And if you're looking at whether it's the first story we're going to cover about a journo who's I would say a second-tier journo. Probably not somebody you've ever heard of.
But, of course, there's a great history there of Democrats becoming journos, journos becoming Democrats, and we all knew all along that's the same thing.
We play an entire game called Dem or Journo because nobody knows.
Because nobody knows.
That's so good.
And so we've got one of those of somebody who's running for office, yet in the litany in the history of journalism becoming Democratic politicians or operatives. And then we've got this fabulous New Yorker story. It highlights, I think it's notable New Yorkers, which is, if you listen to the Ruthless Variety Program over any period of time, what you've come to notice is that we've sort of caricatured who is the modern left. Like, who is the Democratic Party? Well, look no further than the New Yorker. They've done it for you.
Yeah. It's like a cheat sheet for all of the worst people who run the party that fails all the time.
Yeah, totally.
And you'll see why when we show you all these photos.
And we're going to have a lot of laughs. We've got some variety. A Go to the Week, which is our segment here. I love this one. And then there's some variety here. And this is a Smug breakout.
A lot of good stuff.
You're going to love it, Smug.
Yeah. I mean, you're just going to love it. Smug doesn't even know what we're talking about.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
But he's going to be served up some hot. Serving it up hot.
Yeah.
But let's start with the journos. All right. So what we're talking about is a playbook mention, which is, of course, a failing publication here in Washington, D.C., Politico, that is dealing with, they for years, they were founded by Jim Vanaheim, Mike Allen, all these things. And it became like a tip sheet for everybody in Washington, D.C. who is interested in federal politics, White House, House, Senate. And it was a must-read for many years. It's become less so. I think we can all agree on that. But they highlight certain humorous aspects of things, and it's unintentional humor in many ways. Well, this one is first in Playbook. Hannah Trudeau, a former senior political correspondent at The Hill, is exploring a campaign for Congress as a Democrat in New Hampshire's 1st District. Now, isn't that the district where the current press secretary...
Sure is.
Right.
Yeah, it sure is. It's it's a district that a Republican could win under the right circumstances, but over and over again over the last few cycles, it has gone blue.
Yeah. Well, Anna Moran writes in Playbook, billing herself as a, quote, fourth generation Granite Stater who grew up working class.
Okay.
That's an interesting take. Trudeau tells Playbook she moved back home after Democratic Rep Chris Pappas opened up the seat by announcing a Senate bid. Her byline last ran in the Hill on March 7th. Also seems like the right cadence for a political reporter these days. March 7th. Probably not expecting anything anytime soon.
Well, I mean, it's just we've seen so many cases of this, and the outrage that the left and journos try to feign when you're like, we have a game called Dem or Journo. They're like, oh, come on. That's a little out of pocket. We're not the same thing, guys. And then you're like, you go an article on March 7th to like a month later, well, I'm a Dem now. I'm just running as an elected Dem.
Just so happened. I found a different calling.
This comes as a surprise because I'm usually, a very unbiased kind of person. Now I'm running as a Democrat. You'd never expect it. I never had these beliefs as a far lefty before today when I'm announcing.
But it's hysterically consistent, which we're going to get into. That each and every so we've talked about how journos in and of themselves may or may not start left right. They may actually get into journalism for one way or another, but then you get into the college experience, which of course every journalism school of any sort of award-winning sort of top tier teaches them left-wing journalism.
Yep, 100%.
But then you get out of it, and you're immediately in a newsroom with assignment editors and everybody else who begins to sort of school you in the ways of politics, which of course are not keeping an open mind to anything center-right.
Yeah, the understanding of newsroom politics is an understanding of DNC politics. It is a who is further left. Every single story, every single day is like a primary on the Democrat side. It's not...
like academia and then being thrust into the DC media scene is basically just grooming for the future Democratic Party.
Right. I mean,
it's just like a farm system
It is.
for radical left-wing politics.
They see it as one and the same in many ways, which is, look, this is the critique. This is why you listen to the Ruthless Variety Program. We've dealt with these people for long enough to know that your mainstream sort of like establishment Democratic Party and journalism are all the same. Like they work together. Now, you could get further left, and there is a huge advocacy component funded by the Alex Soroses and all of that. Yep. They're in the progressive left that sort of envelop a little bit more of the left, where you don't find any of that on the right. But the mainstream report, if you're a Washington Post reporter or a New York Times reporter, what you've been brought up in and how you earned your slot in one of those two places is to basically be establishment friendly
Yeah,
on the Democrat side.
I would argue that in the off years, the odd years, non-election years, I would argue that they are further left and that they are trying to move their party to the left. And then in on years, even years, they start talking more like establishment Democrats to try to drive up the vote. And here's an example. Like, this is a picture.
That's
okay.
Yep, I'll reference that.
So this is the Democrat.
This is Hannah Trudeau.
Hannah Trudeau.
This is the working class Democrat. I mean, real quickly, I just had some friends who work in research on the Republican side who are pointing out that, like, up until this announcement that essentially she'll be running, her accounts were basically just like Vogue photo shoots, like just covered in gold and all the Vogue fashion you could imagine. And now that she's going to run as a working class Granite Stater, boy, those images disappear pretty fast.
Smug, I have something on that, okay? And we can probably put it in post, but I noticed this as well, that in this announcement, a fourth generation Granite Stater who grew up working class. And, if you click on one of the top links on Hannah Trudeau, you'll be sent to an Instagram of this photographer.
Amazing.
This photographer, Lena Nikolaj.
Okay.
Maybe I have that right.
Okay.
Maybe I have that
Sure.
wrong. Another picture here of Hannah Trudeau. We can put this up in post. But from this Instagram, it says, I had the pleasure of photographing Hannah Trudeau, a political journalist, at the Hill.
Photographing.
And it's a lovely photo tagged it from Manhattan,
Oh,
New York.
interesting.
As a working class Granite Stater that was just hanging out in Manhattan.
Definitely one of the most unique homes I've photographed in the city.
Amazing. Wait, that was her house? Amazing.
Right here.
Fourth generation Granite Stater.
Just
this-
if you're
just
working
working
class.
class.
This goes to the point I was making, that in the odd years, Democrats are, in the media, are moving further and further left. In the even years, they try to act like normal people. And I would bet you that she's going to put on a camo hat, just like Tim Walz. You didn't see a camo hat in that picture, either of those pictures you saw earlier.
We're going to see duck hunting photos with the break action shotgun.
She's going to be talking
Well,
about
that was
how
the thing
deer
is-
season is something that matters to her.
I noticed her photo went from like a Vogue photo shoot, her profile photo, to like a childhood photo of her raising the American flag with her dad. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
It begins. The whole thing that the Democrats have to do, like we saw this with the Tim Walz thing, is they try to dupe the American people into being like, I'm one of you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a nut job. I mean, our next segment's really going to highlight that.
Yeah, just
actually, they
calling
are nut
balls.
jobs.
Just calling balls and strikes here as a journo.
Yeah.
With Vogue shoots.
Total unbiased journo.
You know, but I think it goes to a larger point about the ethos of how you get information. One of the reasons why you listen to the Ruthless Variety Program is what we're talking about is not a far separation from the base of progressive leftism and the base of what is modern journalism here in the United States. And they seem to have the same value structure where, like, can you imagine, first of all, this gal's title is a former senior political correspondent at The Hill. All right, I'm not here to denigrate The Hill. The Hill is a fine publication, fairly niche. And I'm guaranteeing you that most of you that are not in Washington, D.C. has never read an article from The Hill.
Well, it's called The Hill.
Yeah, The Hill is there to cover Capitol Hill and many little different nuances of it. But it's not like a formidable sort of breaker of news in many forms and fashions. What it is basically like they used to do the hot list or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Oh,
about
yeah,
that.
they do
did-
that.
They used to do. I don't think they do it
Oh, did
anymore.
they have to get rid of it?
They,
It's
they,
unacceptable.
well, it was unacceptable.
I think the
and-
wokes killed it.
Yeah, well, they hated it in the turn in what was it, like the Me Too movement, where they're like, well, they're
The one damn thing they did well.
objectifying people because they made like, we're the hottest Capitol Hill staffers, which I found to be a great service in many ways. But this was something that they did away
Ted
with.
Kennedy too. He was like, boy, and from the grave, he still misses it.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying there are many, many talented journalists who got to start at the Hill, got a chance to get to know Capitol Hill leaders and report important stories. There are some that are, sort of talented folks there now. Yeah. But this is not Woodward and Bernstein that we're dealing with here. And yet she is posing for like Vogue style.
It's something else.
Stuff.
I guess what I would say, just to take it even broader than that, Holmes, is like, what does it say about the state of the Democratic Party in 2025 that to, win in New Hampshire, they're calling up, a political reporter from Capitol Hill to parachute back into the state? And like, that's the future of the Democratic Party?
Also, reporting on the Hill from Manhattan is wild. I mean, there's so much about this that's just like, the more layers you peel away, the more apparent it becomes that the Democrat Party is like, okay, so now you have to live in proximity of Alex Soros's penthouse to have a shot to run for office to begin with. Even if you're ostensibly a journo writing about Capitol Hill, you still got to be Manhattan-based.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
What she said, I think, reveals more about the modern state of reporters who are given a beat to cover Democrats than anything. And that she says, she describes herself as a, quote, a journalist who's tired of writing the same story about how Democrats keep losing to Republicans and failing us, unquote.
Think about that.
That is the role of journalism.
She says, I'm used to disrupting the status quo in D.C., unquote. Really? I mean, to be honest with you, I've never heard of this person disrupting the status. In order to disrupt anything, don't you have to be sort of notable and controversial at some level?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this person.
What is the countervailing opinion that Hannah Trudeau has published here?
But that's the point, is that there is nothing countervailing. It is the absolute definition of the status quo, because there's no real difference between what this person said they did for a living and being a Democratic politician.
So here's the thing: is if you talk to a journalist, they'll tell you, "Listen, we are completely unbiased. We're saving democracy, just trying to bring the absolute truth to the American people." And here's the thing: is sometimes we get tired of Dems losing, so we just have to run. Like, think about that. Like, that is such a mask off moment of being like, I was sick of rioting Democrats lost, that I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be honest. I'm gonna do it myself.
I'm gonna cover you assholes making all these mistakes, and you know what? I'm just not gonna make those.
They're like, how many stories do we have to write to try and help you idiots, and you still can't do it? I'm just gonna run.
I've lived it, I've covered it, and I know how to beat the odds, she said.
Oh, boy.
A veteran of the Hill, an alum of the Daily Beast, and Politico.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is she will, do her best to beat the odds. No one expects, a Manhattanite to get elected from New Hampshire, but she'll give it a shot.
Well, Hannah Trudeau.
I mean, she can report about Capitol Hill from Manhattan. Why can't she run for Congress in New Hampshire from Manhattan?
It's funny. She is not the first Democrat to be in this situation, or the first journalist.
We've got
to
a
be in
long
this
list.
situation.
We've got a long list. We're going to get to all of that and reveal a little more about the state of the American media right after this.
The Biden pill penalty is crippling the development of life-saving drugs for cancer, Alzheimer's, and other deadly diseases. It's already slashed funding for pill-based medicines by 70%. Thankfully, President Trump is leading the fight to end the Biden pill penalty. President Trump's plan will unleash innovation, lower costs, and save American lives. Call Congress, tell them to stand with President Trump, and include a repeal of the Biden pill penalty in the budget reconciliation bill.
Okay, so, I mean, look, we talked a little bit about this lady, Hannah Trudeau, and how she's migrated from a quote-unquote political journalist to being part of the Democratic Party. So we thought that maybe this was a good opportunity to sort of like open the aperture and look a little bit about the revolving door that is...
That is something, man. When there's no Journo revolving door of Dem politicians, like, what the... They try to give us such a hard time for Dem or Journo. I think about it every time we come across Journos in the wild. And of course, Ashbrook starts chatting with his friend. He's like, "Where's the next Georgetown cocktail party? Let me know about that." And then these Journos give me a hard time. They're like, "Smug, you always attack us. You hold us accountable. You say Dem or Journo, you play that game. You and Duncan laugh at us. We're just unbiased people here."
That's exactly what happens.
That's always happens.
Is there any rejoinder there, Johnny, or are we going to let that sit?
I have no rejoinder.
Let it sit. Well, I mean, look, it goes to the point that you've all known. I mean, we've watched the coverage of CBS, ABC, NBC, obviously MSNBC and CNN over the course of the last election and how it's bled into this year. And you're like, oh, my God. Like, this is a dying industry, as we've all covered. But, like, objectively speaking, you're not in a silo if you believe that this is, like, one of life's real outrages in terms of the information flow that gets to American voter, that gets to the public, which is, of course, the definition of why you have, like, network news. Or, heaven forbid, NPR, PBS, publicly funded news, which, by the way, the Trump administration is going to do away with at some level, at least the public funding of it. But you look back at, remember Uri Berliner?
Yeah, 100%.
What we were talking about? When he talked about how there was just like a massive, rigid, progressive ideology, to quote unquote, within his newsroom. And
Is it NPR?
And talked about how like 90+% of the people were either identified as Democrats or had contributed to Democrats.
Yeah.
In a publicly funded
insane
news environment.
Right, and he was run out of the building
Yeah.
for having the temerity to say that there is zero variety of thought in this place, and that we are headed for the dumps because everybody has the exact same point of view, and we're writing stories that nobody cares to read. And I think that NPR deserves everything they're going to get. They do not deserve to be paid. by the taxpayers. I don't know if you guys saw the White House rapid response. Trump 47 has a Twitter account. It is very good.
It's great. They're
I would
always on
encourage
it.
everybody listening here to go back and look at that thread of some of the greatest hits of NPR stories.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's you wouldn't believe it. You're paying for this.
Yeah.
It truly is remarkable. But if you look at this revolving door that we're discussing, Hannah Trudeau is not breaking a glass ceiling here.
No.
This has been well established. Jay Carney. Anybody remember Jay Carney?
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's like a master of corporate America, but he was a Time magazine reporter before he was tapped to be the Obama press secretary.
Amazing.
Do you imagine what it would take?
You think there was a lengthy onboarding process? Or he was just like, you think he was just like, no, your politics, trust me.
No, perfect fit.
Yeah.
He's like,
Perfect
how
fit.
can I communicate the left's ideas? Listen, I've been a journalist at Time. I'm going to have to get a lot of training for
He's
this.
like, feel free to vet me. I think what you'll find you'll be quite pleased with.
Pretty easy onboarding process. Yeah.
He's like, here's a better way to tell the bullshit story that you guys are telling, because I've actually put pen to paper on all of this. Nick Kristof, New York Times, formerly a very well-known journalist. He ran for governor of Oregon. Not successful.
Which party did he run as?
Well, it turns out, not to be surprised, it's a Democratic Party.
Oh, okay. You never know. You never know.
One that really burned me because it came back to our efforts. When I was on Capitol Hill with Johnny, we were trying to kill Obamacare. And we were throwing everything at the wall. But you recall at the time, Republicans were irrelevant. We had 40 votes, 4-0, in the United States Senate, and a massive minority in the House. And so Democrats could basically do anything they wanted, provided they all stuck together. Well, there was a handful of journalists that were covering that debate on a day-to-day basis. And they knew exactly what was happening. And the fair-minded ones knew that we were making a lot of headway. The American people did not want it, were very concerned about being thrown off their plans despite the president's promises that if you like your plan, you can keep it, which turned out to be the lie of the year. And all of this revolving around all of it. And there was one reporter in the middle of it that was smart. And she knew the specifics of the bill and would rely on it for much of her column to sort of make it more boring that you could. She ignored the process component and the politics of it, and just got delved into the details of it. But everything always to the point where you could write a headline that were sort of urging Democrats to get this done. Right? Despite the fact that 60-70% of the American people didn't want any part of it, she was always sort of, and I couldn't figure it out. I mean, we took every single run that we could think of at her. And she was very nice, like a good, nice, agreeable, decent person. You felt like you were making a lot of headway, and yet the end product was always the same. And about 3 months after Obamacare passed, she signed on to be the senior advisor to Barack Obama and I think a communications director for Joe Biden. That was Shayla Murray, who was at the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal and others.
Dem or Journo, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. But, you in your mind, you think back, it's like, how much of this was just like a job audition?
Yeah.
It was an interview process. Like, what can I get past the editors of my publication to sort of push the ball down the road? I don't know, but you probably have to ask Jen Psaki.
Do you before we get to Jen Psaki, do you think in his interview, Jay Carney just pulled out that cover of Time magazine where Barack Obama had a halo over his head and was like, "This is my
that's his
CV.
resume. Here's what I can do for you guys.
This is what I can do.
Because it
for
is
you.
a job.
Yeah.
It is a job audition for sure.
It is. Well, if you're getting to the point, this is the major leagues. This is the highest point you can get in politics. You've never done a lick of work in either political communications or an operative deal unless they have, at some point, settled on the fact that maybe your job experience is directly applicable.
And just think about it in this way. So it says this Hannah Trudeau, her last article was March 7th. Now she's running as a Democrat. Do you think on March 6th, when she was calling Republicans for comment, she was giving them a fair shot?
I mean, no. It's like
Did something magical happen in 24 hours that
Yeah.
transformed her from a completely unbiased defender of democracy, just the truth, nothing but the truth, into I'm running as a Democrat?
well, the integrity of the job.
Yeah.
Smug, I mean, it's very important. This
It's just insane.
lady clearly takes that
These
very
people-
seriously.
So I remember I mentioned all the NPR headlines. I have a few of those. Would you like to hear them now, or should we wait till we get through Jen Psaki?
No, I'd like to hear them.
Yeah, I'd like to hear him now.
Yeah.
This is the Rapid account that Trump runs, right? The 47 one?
NPR, Manny loves cayenne. Plus, 5 facts about queer animals for Valentine's Day.
Come on.
This is NPR. You're paying
You're
for
paying
this.
for this.
You're paying for this. NPR ran a story titled...
Queer animals?
Yeah, they're into it. They
Well,
They're into it.
What is that? What is that? Gay animals?
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't click through because I was afraid of what that might do to my algorithm. But I will tell you,
I'll take your word for
it's
it.
not something I would have clicked if I came across it by happenstance. Let me read you another one. NPR ran a story titled, quote, Cannibalism. It's perfectly natural.
Amazing.
In which the author describes eating another human's placenta.
Come on.
No!
You're paying for this.
No! Like, just think about what a newsroom looks like. To be like green lights.
Yeah. Can you imagine the pitch meeting with the whole editorial department?
You're paying. And then in 2022, this is just a couple years ago, NPR scrapped its decades-long Independence Day tradition of reading the Declaration of Independence on air to instead discuss equality.
Oh, yeah.
They subsequently issued an editor's note warning that the Declaration of Independence is a document that contains offensive language.
No,
Think
no
about
way.
that. I'm dead serious. I saw that. 'cause-
Wait, that's for real?
yeah, their account put that out. NPR, or the Trump Rapid account, had the screenshots and everything because I couldn't believe it. I went and I looked at it. NPR put an article where they added an editor's note saying that, hey, the Declaration of Independence is racist and offensive. I'm being dead serious.
If
that actually happened.
If journalism thinks the Declaration of Independence needs a trigger warning, it's not going to make it. It's just not going to make it.
NPR educated the nation on the, quote, whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts and, quote, trans ceratops.
No way. I mean, like,
You're paying for this.
Wait, dude, are you making... This is for real?
This is real. I'm reading this.
it's not enough that they stop getting tax money. They need to be put in jail. Like, that's the thing. Like, we're way past the, like, you don't get any more checks point.
NPR assigned 3 reporters to investigate how the thumbs up emoji is racist.
Oh, my God!
Here's another one, and I'll just close with this one. NPR reported on, quote, the cousin of diet culture known as healthism, which is the idea that we have to be healthy as if it's a bad thing. Healthism. You don't want to be healthy. That's a problem. This is a publicly funded institution. It needs to be defunded.
Yeah.
Well,
If
no.
they want to get money from the Ford C. Frick Foundation or wherever they're getting money from, more power to them. But it shouldn't come from people who are out there busting their ass every single day.
That's the thing.
And handing half of it to the government.
It's so offensive to know that your money is being stolen from you and to fund that kind of trash. Unbelievable.
I will say the Fats have had a real shortage of messaging. these
Yeah, right.
days. And if they can't count on publicly funded airways, where are they going to get it?
It's unbelievable.
You know, I mean, the Fats need
I
representation
think
too.
I think the only dinosaur my son does not know is the Triceratops. I mean, he knows every dinosaur.
Well, you're raising him well. Listen, there's more. John Avalon, you guys remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we toyed around with doing like a full episode on this dude. He was an anchor at CNN who was supposed to be sort of like a dispassionate, nonpartisan, not terribly political guy who hosted a news program on CNN. But every episode that you ever did anywhere around him, and I did a fair share over the years, like he just had a very partisan point of view. Well, it turns out in 2024, he decided to file paperwork to run as a House Democrat. He got beat in a primary, by the way.
Hilarious. Even Dems don't like Journos.
Yeah, even Doug's still like that.
Funny.
But we mentioned Jen Psaki. I mean, look, that speaks for itself. Lawrence O'Donnell, I don't know if you guys know, he's a alleged aide to Senator Moynihan. Along with there's a lot of people in that era. And then Stephanopoulos was sort of like the
Poster child for it.
Yeah, he was like the poster child of. If you've never seen the amount of work that he put in to try to get President Bill Clinton elected, and then immediately turn around and try to be a nonpartisan host of a news program on ABC, you're crazy. Like that is, it's like the poster child for a next generation that doesn't actually know the backstory of who this guy is. But then you see him interview people every Sunday on from the Trump administration. You're like, oh yeah, of course. And if anything, he's gotten worse because he's been indoctrinated in a New York left-wing view of news and information.
That's why I always think it's so funny when the media is like, Donald Trump is trying to silence his political opponents. And it's like, bro, you are his political opponent. You are on broadcast television.
You are.
What are you talking about?
You're it. You're it. And so, like, we've talked a lot about this on this show, about how there's a difference between reporting inconvenient facts that you'd prefer not to be out there and sort of harm your narrative one way or another. And that's like the basis of journalism. Truth, no matter what, and independent and fearless truth. And what's happened over the last 20 years is that journalism is only a version of the truth that fits like this progressive worldview that can help spin to the American public something that benefits the Democratic Party. And we just don't find it. That's why people are actually surging towards independent media. It's why like Fox News has got record ratings, because you can't, if you want to know what's happening, you can't trust. I mean, they're all filing for office.
It's unbelievable. And again, the public has called them out on being biased for years, and these journalists have been saying the public is stupid, that, oh, you're in your own information silos, and it can't get any clearer than when they're just filing for office to run as a Democrat. Like, what more can they do to broadcast? Yes, we are insanely partisan.
Can we get one more look at Hannah Trudeau?
Just working class.
Just a working class gal, you know? She's just...
I look forward to seeing her in camo and waders in an upcoming campaign ad.
I mean, she looks like she's wearing a Christmas tablecloth.
And is that Manhattan in the sky? Is that the Manhattan sky in the window?
It's the dress version of a doily.
It is. And just sort of humbly staring out the window. Anyway, so, you know.
Best of luck.
Good news is for all of you, record numbers of people are tuning into programs like this and not getting their information from people like that. And for all of that, I'd like you to like and subscribe at this point. Make sure you become a part of our community here at the Ruthless Variety Program. We will not let you down. If anybody files for office, it certainly isn't going to be comfortably Smug, who's got a rap sheet a mile long. And Duncan is way too outspoken. Ashbrook, at the end, never survive a primary. So I think we're all safe here.
Yeah.
I think we're all safe here. Anyway, up next, your comments from last episode. We asked, how does Trump get back to 50%? We were noting some polls from the previous week that had a lot to do with the economic condition and the perception of that in this community. And we're going to get to your responses right after this.
Hardworking Americans know when it's time to roll up our sleeves and get the job done. Now is the time to unleash our nation's energy to create jobs, secure our future, and make life better, more affordable, and full of opportunity for all Americans. That's the power of America's oil and natural gas. Learn more at lightsonenergy.org. Paid for by the American Petroleum Institute.
You did all the right things. You worked hard, you worked your way up, and you invested your money in a 401k or other retirement plan. Your future is all set, right? Wrong. The retirement system as we know it is currently under attack from misguided policymakers in D.C. The Trump tax cuts are set to expire this year. Renewing them will be a big fight in Congress. Right now, the tax code protects 401ks, IRAs, and other plans that help you save. Some people want to change that. Your representatives in Congress must protect the tax advantages that more than 100 million Americans rely on to save for retirement. You deserve policies that build on the current retirement system to secure your financial future, not jeopardize it. If Americans know one thing, it's resilience. To stay resilient, we need immediate action from our leaders. Head to helpusretire.org to take action and reach out to your representatives in Congress today. Help Us Retire is sponsored by the Investment Company Institute, representing asset managers serving individual investors.
Okay, are your comments from last episode? We talked a little bit about the poll numbers and how Trump gets back to 50+1, where he was early on in this term, and has taken a little bit of a hit because of the economy, some perceptions of the economy. But we asked you, and we always get your best advice on how this Trump administration can get back into even footing. To do that, we always start with a voice.
Well, thank you, Josh. And remember, like and subscribe if you wish to opine. First comment comes from Proud Florida Boomer.
Let's go.
And he writes, or she writes, my advice to improve Trump's poll numbers: Trump needs to succeed with tariff negotiations, parenthetically, lower tariffs against American products, ASAP, and quickly create new jobs for the middle class, bring back manufacturing, open the pipelines ASAP. Also, he should temper his comments about Greenland and Canada, which creates blowback from the leaders and people from those two countries who consider the comments insulting to them, and the Americans in the middle feel uneasy when our POTUS insults our allies.
It's interesting. You get a little bit of this in the polling. I mean, there is something, what they call open ends, where you ask a question and then you allow people to speak, and not everybody selects to speak, but in polling terms, somebody does and sort of amplifies their view. And what you see in a lot of polling that I've been privy to over the last couple of months, that is a thing, where people are, they may be on board for what Trump's trying to do or not, but it makes them a little bit uneasy when we're trying, what they feel like is insulting people who ultimately are on our side, and there's not a lot that are on our side.
It doesn't feel like they're on our side when I watch a hockey game.
No, they're definitely not. They're definitely not. And I mean, personally could take both sides of this argument, but I kind of understand where some
for sure.
People in the center.
Well, there's something different about like looking at, say, the Panama Canal, and it being a strategic thing that previous presidents have ignored, and that needs to be the focus of America's, policy there, and then being like, I'm going to make Canada the 51st state. Like, it was funny, and we had a lot of fun in January and February, but like, all right, let's get down to brass tacks here.
Yeah, what are you going to do for us?
Right.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I think Greenland should be part of America. I think Canada should be part of America. There's no question. The Canadians have made so much money. They've become so wealthy because of our country, and they should be part of it. And I don't care what Toronto says. I don't care what Montreal says. The people of Alberta yearn to be free. And that country beats them down every single day because they, in the urban areas, hate the rural people in Canada. There's so much energy. America has done so much for them. If they want to win another Stanley Cup, they'll become part of our country.
Well, that is spoken like a true political professional, because I've read a lot about this situation, and the big fear of Canadian leaders, particularly on the left, who just won their election by the skin of their teeth, is that people in Alberta are going to take these overtures by the Trump administration more seriously than the rest of the country and see the election results as a dismissiveness of their concerns about liberal rule. And there may be some fractions beginning to appear, fractures, I should say, beginning to appear there that worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah. If the Quebecois get to do their own thing, Alberta should be able to get to do its own thing too.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Fair enough. Let's go to comment 2, Dunks Runks.
From Susanna Lewis. If we start hearing about actual really good trade deals, one right after another, the market will soar, and so will Trump's numbers. If the Ukraine war ends, if Israel finishes taking out Hamas, he'll get a little bump, but not as much of one as if the economy gets ripping.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
totally right. It's just, that's what we covered, and I couldn't agree with you more.
Got to get some W's on the board.
That's exactly
Simple as
right.
that.
Exactly right. All right, Smuggles.
This comes from Lung Butter, and they write, he needs to keep doing what he's doing. This minus 15% bullshit is coordinated to demoralize us. We're at the peak of the struggle between leftists and Trump. They're going to run out of steam soon, and all we need to do is hold the door. And I feel like, some of the economic news we got, like the jobs numbers beating expectations, has kind of gotten these numbers moving back in Trump's direction already. So I think, like the second comment, he gets a trade deal announced, this market's primed to just take off.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for several weeks. I mean, the most significant two developments that can happen are you get a couple of deals in the door and you get tax reform passed and you've got an economy that you just can't ignore.
Yeah, rocking and rolling.
And that's the most important part. But if we're just sitting pat, everything gets a little bit more complicated. No question about it. Anyway, so our second story.
This is really good.
It relates to the first in many ways. The New Yorker, a publication that none of you, not a single one of you, subscribes to or reads on a frequent basis, but still exists in large part because of its constituency in New York and California that subscribes by the dozens. And allows them to do things like this. They have published a story of inside the living rooms of notable New Yorkers. This next segment describes to you better than anything we can say about the modern Democratic left. It is truly remarkable. Smug, I'd like you to just sort of set the stage for what it is that we're dealing with here.
I started reading this. This is the most bananas thing. So the New Yorker is saying that, like, this is just notable. We're just going to have some notable New Yorkers. Their description of a living room is just deranged. I'm just going to read it direct. What aspects of living are meant to be done in a living room exactly? Not eating, which takes place, at least theoretically, in the dining room or in the kitchen. Not sleeping or having sex, which takes place in the bedroom. And unless you live in an old East Village tenement, I won't even mention bathing. What the living room is for, ostensibly, is gathering. It's the most public-facing of a home's spaces, and as such, it bears a particular burden. That of showcasing to others who the occupants are. Like,
we're doing critical living room theory.
Quite poignant.
They're like, how have we lost touch with regular Americans? Let's do a breakdown.
Was this written by E.E. Cummings?
The quilt you drape on your couch, the paintings you hang on your wall, the tchotchkes you select for your mantle, all are about as important to your adult self-conception as the heavy eyeliner and chunky boots are to an emo teen's, which is to say, very.
Also, they're like, the New Yorker's authors are like, when you're just like hanging the paintings in your living room. I like to have a Rothko in mind. That's normal, right? Most Americans have Rothkos, don't they?
If you're having a hard time conceptualizing what we're going for here, imagine how you live and what your house looks like, and your living room. Which, look, the description, it's not far off. I mean, there's a lot of us in the Midwest where the kitchen is an open space, and you just sort of gather there in addition to a living room. But the point is like this is supposed to define the house that you're in. In many ways, that is correct. I'm not going to quibble for one moment with the New Yorker's characterization of that. But what they found from the notable New Yorkers, you won't be surprised to find out the most liberal people on the face of the planet, is remarkable. Really remarkable. Why don't we start out with the Reverend Al Sharpton, who's a very notable New Yorker, and his Upper East Side palace. Here we have the Reverend Al standing in a very, it's just the vest of a three-piece suit, standing there looking serious, solemn.
To me, the most telling thing about, for our audio listeners, I'm going to describe it. You can already know this is probably what his living room looks like. It's Al Sharpton standing in a room with one photo. It's a photo of Al Sharpton.
A painting of Al Sharpton on Al Sharpton's wall.
That's it.
Okay, so what I love about this is there's another view you could go for. Maybe a window in the background. Maybe you could see some skyline or something. And you just have to imagine the stage direction from Al. from Reval.
He's like, no.
No. I need the picture of myself behind me.
Well, here's the other.
There's like what? There's like a doggy fence there.
Well, that's what caught my attention because it's a 4x4 dog playpen with crystal water dishes and food dishes and a basket full of toys and a plush bed.
No dog though.
No dog.
No, dog didn't make the cut.
That would complicate the depiction.
Yeah, the austere aesthetic.
Well, he has to keep that pretty beast anonymous.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to unfairly make them a target. But that's what Al Sharpton is. How about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, as we've come to know her? She's East Elmhurst, New York. What do we have here, fellas?
She's knitting a scarf.
I mean, come on. Really?
Winter is coming, old man. She is preparing. As she normally does with her tube socks and French bulldog at her side. This is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez just thinking about how she might one day run for president of the United States.
I mean, dude, the amount of preparation, for those of you who've never been a part of PR or any sort of photo shoot or anything like that, the amount of preparation that goes into a photo like this, it's heavy makeup, it's trying to depict you in a way that you just absolutely need to be depicted. And someone like The New Yorker goes over the top where they make full magazine photo spreads of it. What she has done is decided to lay on a couch and knit.
Yeah. Right.
As if she's just sort of like an old grandmother.
Right. It makes no sense. I mean, this is the most social media hungry, clout chasing member of the Democratic Party. And you want me to believe that she walks into her apartment in East Elmhurst and she takes off her shoes and then she gets out her knitting gear. I just don't believe it.
No.
I don't believe it. She like goes live on Instagram every night.
Yes.
Like, are you kidding me?
But it looks like a candid shot, old man. Are you sure this isn't real?
The only person that I have come across who included someone who would be considered family in any sort of definitional way, Alex Soros.
Yes, this is my favorite. You have to subscribe to the YouTube. You have to see this because it's absolutely beautiful. Okay, so let me just set the scene here. Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, who's now in charge of his Democratic investment empire, is lounging with his legs crossed, with his hand raised, holding the hand of Uma Abedin. Who
all very straight-faced.
Yeah.
It's all like almost a Mona Lisa-like.
It's very strange
Yes.
for a man to be sitting that way while ostensibly in some sort of physical relationship with this woman who he has on display. It is not a masculine pose.
We should draw the green lines because she's like facing away from him while also his legs are crossed, and folks will recognize this his penthouse condo from it's essentially just like a trophy case of elected Democrats where they all have to come kiss the ring and stand in front of his skyline.
That's what's happened. He collects them like baseball cards, as
Yeah.
we've said. Any single Democrat who has been of any sort of consequence over the years,
He summons them.
they've been summoned.
He
to
rings the
Soros.
bell.
Well, this is the other thing I love about that room in particular. Can you put that graphic back up, please? Is you've got Alex Soros. This is a man who has spent
So weird.
spent millions,
This is so weird.
millions upon millions of dollars to elect every far left DA in the country to defund the police, and he lives in a glass citadel hundreds of feet above the city he's ruining. It's like this photo is like the photo of a fucking Bond villain.
Yep.
It's so good. But also, what if you look past all of these? Not a smirk. Not so much as it's just an element of joy.
None.
I mean, these are the notable libs that you are ascribing to. Not a single one of them looks like they're having any fun whatsoever. I do love the Huma Abedin component to this, by the way, which is,
Right.
like the ostensible, like articulated reason for Alex Soros is to try to usher in this progressive left governing of everything from local crime enforcement all the way up to the federal government, the president of the United States. And then he's holding hands sort of auspiciously with the woman who's maybe most responsible for not electing Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Right.
So, like for some of our younger listeners and viewers, they might not know the lore on Huma Abedin, who was she was essentially Hillary Clinton's right-hand woman. You know, worked for Hillary, and when her husband Carlos Danger, also what was his actual?
Anthony Weiner.
Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
former congressman from New York, former incarcerated individual for child sex crimes.
Unspeakable crimes.
Huma was married to Anthony Weiner
Yes.
while Huma worked for Hillary Clinton. And while they were investigating Anthony Weiner, they found out that he was using Huma's laptop.
And so some of the Hillary Clinton emails that there was the whole investigation over
disappeared.
in 2016 appeared on this laptop that had been accessed by Anthony Weiner. This is no joke. One of the reasons why Hillary Clinton did not become president of the United States is because of Uma and because of Carlos Danger.
It's incredible.
I mean, just go back through the history of when the FBI reopened the discussion in the waning weeks of the 2016 election. The reason they did so is because they had an investigation into Anthony Weiner and exposing his parts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when they had that investigation, they found, lo and behold, a whole bunch of emails that had to do with Hillary Clinton that she vanished, that were not any longer vanished.
I just look at that picture and wonder what Alex Soros is searching for on Huma Abedin's computer.
So I want to read. Keep that image up there. This is from friend of the program, Jarvis Best on X. Jarvis_Best wrote, "Loved this picture of me, a heterosexual, and my wife, who I love being physically intimate with."
It is so unrelatable.
It's hilarious.
Like, that's what the case is with all of these things.
They're
It's
just
like,
a notable New Yorker.
It's the most inauthentic, unrelatable bunch of shit that you've ever seen in your entire life.
Speaking of unrelatable, my friend, I think we should go to Graphic 5.
Let's go to Graphic
Oh,
5.
boy.
Who's the resident
No
expert
way.
on Ella Emhoff? We know her by relation to the former Democratic nominee's husband's daughter.
Yeah. Stepdaughter of Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and this is super relatable, unquestionably. Who wants to take this one?
Well, it says she's a textile artist in the Lower East Side, and there is all this thread over, you can see sort of on the left side of her apartment shelves. It makes you think, leads you to believe that she's headed straight to the loom, where she is going to weave together some fabrics and carry out her occupation as a textile artist. However,
Unless she's running the most successful shop in the history of Etsy, there's no way a textile artist could afford a place in the Lower East Side.
to me, dude, like her saying she's a textile artist, it reminds me of me and my brother joking that we were raking leaves and therefore we were conducting fall foliage mitigation.
I mean, but just look at first of all, she's standing on her fucking couch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess that's a pose.
Just a very natural pose you'd find me in any evening.
Let me just say it.
Say it.
If anyone that I grew up with had this situation going on in the fam, they'd be devastated.
Yeah.
They'd be devastated. Like this is the kind of problem that you get a week before Thanksgiving. They're not going to make it. They're not going to show up, and they hate their family. They're like completely tossing you all under the bus, and they've got a bunch of left-wing reasons to do so. Like, just look at the problem that is Ella Emhoff here. I mean, standing on the couch, she's got a crop top on. I don't know what you call that. Those are like those are the shorts that I used to wear as a kid in 1995.
Yeah,
probably.
like board shorts.
Right? Like a board short. And she's holding a
Are those
dog.
Jenkos?
Yeah.
Jenkos?
Bring them back.
A stack of books, the likes of which I fear for the dog's health, in all honesty, because if any one of those topples over, you got like 40 pounds of books coming down on you. That would take out that little mutt, no question about it. And then there's a bunch of stuff here. I still come back to what you highlighted at the top, a textile artist. I mean, is she printing T-shirts? What is she doing? What's a textile artist?
That's what I can't get over is the con job that they expect us to believe that they caught her in between weaving sessions. Like she is just sitting in a sewing machine 23 hours a day, and then this was the 1 hour when they caught her candid spending time with her pup.
Extremely notable.
It's just insane. She's a wealthy socialite who lives a life that nobody else in this country lives. And she's LARPing as some kind of a worker.
She's at her loom when the New Yorker knocks. Oh, hello, I didn't see you there.
Right.
I was
Just
textile artisting.
Just changing out the needles in my sewing machine.
Busily making garments for working class America.
Making garments.
Who's the last one here? Anna Sorokin?
Oh, Anna Delvey. This is Anna Delvey.
Okay, who is this?
So this is the Manhattan socialite con woman who like conned all of these rich people out of a bunch of money for this like art gallery project she was going to be doing or something. It was like this whole scam thing. You'll see here in the photo on her right ankle is actually her monitoring device.
No.
My God.
No.
Yeah. Which I just love that they included her.
Hats off to the eyes
Yeah.
on that.
Right.
That's good.
And she's wearing some sort of like, what is this? It's like a fur
Yeah.
coat sort of
Off
thing.
the shoulder.
Shawl, some sort of shawl.
So off the shoulder.
Yeah. I
You
guess
know?
what I love most about this is she did a great service to America by conning a bunch of left-wing dupes out of their money. And in fact, I would suggest perhaps that she might be the least felonious person they portrayed in this whole thing.
Amazing.
That's the best part of it. So you've got like, look, I'm not an interior decorator, but you know the shot is, I guess, ostensibly out the window because it has a viewpoint of New York City over the river, and that that I guess that's cool. There is a very ill-shapen sofa
Yeah.
in front of it that's sort of like cast off to one side of the wall in large part because you get one of those apartments that are the leftover apartments they can't square off, that they do like a one quarter, 2/4 turn. And then she's got 1 foot on that, not a single picture on the wall.
No.
And then it looks like in the bottom part of the photograph, there's just some debris.
Assorted debris.
Assorted debris.
debris.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do like a New Yorker thing and you're going to be a part of like the Alex Sorkin sort of like billionaire class of puppeteers that are the modern most influential New Yorkers, I'm not sure this is it. Like, this feels like you're going to, if she is a con artist, this feels like a pretty bad start. Like, you got a lot of talking to do to get through this.
Well, this is part of her rehabilitation tour, I think.
Oh, she's like, well, I'm not that rich.
Well, she's on the other side of it, right? Like the
Okay.
con had been revealed. and
Oh,
all
it
that
had
sort
already
of-
been.
And honestly,
Hence the ankle bracelet.
I would rather billionaires give their money to her than to Alex Soros. That's for sure.
So this isn't just to make fun of the New Yorker or who they see as, significant New Yorker, like the power players of the next generation, so much as it is to sort of codify what we've been talking about here for the last year and a half on the Ruthless Variety Program, which is the modern Democratic Party is that.
Yep.
That's what it is. And you can get the, every once in a while discussion about the working class. And they'll talk a lot about like, oh, the Republican Party is for billionaires, voting public notwithstanding, policy notwithstanding, all of that. Like, this is what they talk, but this is who they are. And that's who they answer to. And so, like, the reason we highlight all of this is, can you relate?
Yeah.
Do you think any one of these people, like, take a look at Ella Emhoff. Does she look like somebody who you're going to hang out with on Friday night after a tough week of work?
They're like, if she puts a camo hat on, she could probably get elected. Like, I think that is.
I mean, it's true. It's true. So anyway, we got to get to our question of the day, which is a confluence of these two things. In the first, we were talking about Journos becoming Democrats. In the second, we're telling you exactly what your modern-day Democratic Party looks like. They are one and the same. This is one of the same. The Christmas tablecloth that our first victim was wearing, and then everything else is totally. And by the way, all with the same straight face, like no joy type. You notice that?
Yeah, I mean,
I can't
to celebrate.
That's the thing. It's like no fun here, no fun to be had. So our question is, as journos start to get dispersed, and we see a bunch of them now doing Substack and everything else, what do you think their new job ought to be? Is it running just straight Democratic politics, as many of them have now chosen to do? Or is it, something more entrepreneurial? Marrying Alex Soros, for example.
Can you imagine?
Perhaps opening an OnlyFans. What is
Fate's
it?
worse than hell.
Like, what is it? That's our question to all of you, is what do you think they ought to do with their lives? Clearly, there is some talent there, not relatable to the general electorate or any of us, but how best? Maybe it's a textiles situation.
Textile artistry.
Yeah, textile artistry. Interested in all of your thoughts. When we come back, we're going to get to our GOAT of the Week. Plus, there's a Florida man who's in a lot of trouble with the law. We're going to talk about all of that right after this.
The next phase of our plan is to pass tax cuts for everybody.
President Trump won on a promise to cut taxes to keep American businesses competitive. So why are some Republicans pushing to raise taxes? Our tax rate is already higher than communist China. The current BSALT plan is a tax hike on American business. And when business taxes go up, workers and families pay. Tell Congress, make the Trump tax cuts permanent. Stop the BSALT assault.
Okay. Go to the week. Fellas, this is a great news segment.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. It highlights just sort of one individual who sort of stood out to us as being like part of the cause of the conservative movement, but somebody who not necessarily is top of the food chain. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But this person in particular, an immigrant rights groups report ICE activity in Nashville is the story, which is sort of how we got onto this story. And the story is Tennessee Highway Patrol troopers conducted roughly 150 traffic stops in Nashville this weekend during a public safety operation with the federal authorities, but immigrant advocates called the stops a form of profiling and discrimination. The Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition.
Oh, boy.
Imagine that niche property.
Jeez.
Yikes. I mean, it's got it. I mean, sure, Soros has something to do. I mean, you can't fund that in Tennessee.
Yeah. Probably.
You know?
Maybe in Texas, not Tennessee. I know it's in Texas.
You can't do that in Tennessee. Anyway, described the situation on Facebook, quote, in the early hours of May 4, advocates and organizers in the community confirmed what appears to be a coordinated operation between Tennessee Highway Patrol and ICE to stop and arrest community members driving on the Nolensville Road in South Nashville. The organizers said they documented roughly 100 people who were detained by law enforcement, adding to the first traffic stop, started around 10 p.m. So they were basically doing traffic stops. I don't know what the thesis behind any of it, because, of course, the news article provides none of it. Mm-hmm. You don't have any.
Of course they don't.
You don't have any context to why it is that people were doing, but it turns out it came up with some results, which is why this is now being discussed. Meanwhile, one agent smoked a cigar outside the facility where families continued to show up Sunday seeking answers about their loved ones. Can we play clip one? Here's this cat. He's standing outside of his Homeland Security car.
The victory cigar.
And he's smoking a cigar after a job well done. They found this absolutely abhorrent.
He's put in hours making the community safer. Probably getting a bunch of illegals, which is why this Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition sounds like is upset. He's getting illegals off the road, making the country safer, making the community safer, enjoying his cigar. I mean, that's just like, that's it. That's a good day. You put in a good day right there.
He's putting his life on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, let's get real. This guy is actually putting his life on the line to take criminals out of our society. And he doesn't get, he's not allowed to smoke a cigar when he gets a criminal out. I mean, get out of here. Like, this guy should be celebrated.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you want in America, because these are the types of heroes who actually stick up for us when all of the weak-kneed ice cubes out there are just like...
Well, I guess what I find so interesting about this whole article is we just accept the premise of this Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. Like, the article is just writing up how they describe the situation on Facebook.
Yeah.
Calling these, stop and arrest community members. Just some community members.
Just like community members.
You know,
Maryland man.
They're just arresting members of our community. It's like, what the fuck?
like maybe. Well, I mean, we're going to see a new candidate for Congress in Tennessee, and it's whoever wrote that one up.
Yeah.
I mean, no context whatsoever. But anyway, to the good man who was smoking a cigar after a job well done, you're our goat of the week. Congratulations, pal. This next one's a doozy.
Yeah, it sure is.
Right up our alley.
I cannot wait to hear Smug's deal on this. Florida man's triple betrayal. 3 wives, 3 counties, 1 big lie. This is according to NDTV.com. A Florida man has been arrested for having 3 wives in 3 different counties at the same time while keeping each one of them in the dark. According to ABC Action News, Henry Betsy Jr. is now facing felony bigamy charges after the women found out that they were married to the same man after having been played. Henry recently divorced women on dating platforms like Bumble, Tinder, and presented himself as a charming, attentive individual who is ready to settle down. Quote, looking for a beautiful woman who understands the ups and downs of life, is trustworthy, and no games, unquote, read Henry's dating app bio. After meeting the women for the first time, Henry escalated the relationship quickly and tied the knot within weeks. Post-wedding, Henry insisted on a joint bank account and revealed his true colors, often indulging in domestic violence.
Jeez.
Why that?
Henry was arrested in Seminole County last year after one of his wives, Tanya, filed a police report and submitted evidence of multiple marriages. He has since filed for divorce from Miss Tanya. Well, yes, one would. And is now seeking an annulment from his marriages to Miss Michelle and Miss Brandy. Okay.
Incredible story.
Incredible story for so many reasons, not the least of which is the modern degradation of society. And what we have here is a gentleman who has decided.
So for the first when I'm listening to this, I was like, why would you want to keep getting married? Like, but this doesn't seem like the best plan. But then when it's like, okay, he insists on joint checking accounts. Okay, now I see the game.
Yeah.
Now I see the game.
There's cash involved.
Like, I don't. He had me until the whole domestic violence thing. Like, he had a good thing going. Like, that is the most SEO online dating profile ever. Looking for a beautiful woman who understands the ups and downs of life, is trustworthy, no games. And like that's not a bad pitch. And he knows his target. It says going after recently divorced women.
Yeah, getting them on the rebound.
Like, he knows the dude is sitting there under the hoop, just waiting for it. Has the right play, goes right in, matter of weeks. So he moves fast, gets the joint checking account, man on a mission. To
be clear, the ups, first date. The downs, when I ask for your checking account.
Yeah.
That's the ups and downs of life, as anyone could attest. But this gentleman, I'll be frank with you, has got a lot more tolerance for managing situations than I ever would. He had 3 different wives in 3 different counties. Not countries.
Yeah.
Counties. That means they were all within shouting distance at the same time. Can you imagine trying to schedule that situation?
Well, imagine your wife being like, hey, I want to go to Applebee's for dinner, and you have to cross the county line, and you're just sweating bullets the whole time.
I'm going to run into my other family.
Yeah, I mean, like, the stress involved with this. I say this as a married man, and I love my wife very much. The idea of doing it 2 more times at the same time is an insane proposition.
It's crazy.
That is more busy than a full-time job. Like, this seems like a very inefficient strategy to go out and get money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like,
there's got to be easier ways to make money.
Find a side hustle, dude. Like, I don't know, put in 60 hours a week. A marriage is a full-time job. Doing 3 of them full-time is psychotic.
Full-time. And the idea, the mere proposition that you would take upon yourself, not only the scheduling of 3 different families, but like the heartache and like stress I mean, you must be sociopathic.
Also,
right?
like, what? All right, think about it this way. Let's just get really practical here. Like, what do you do? What do you do on Valentine's Day?
Oh my God!
When they all want to go out to dinner and you want to buy the chocolates, you got to buy the flowers. Like, how do you schedule that sort of thing? Do you make reservations at 3 restaurants all in the same?
See, that's the
complex?
thing. I don't think he's the kind. He's not in these situations to be spending the money.
Oh.
Like, he's not buying
well,
the
he's
chocolates.
spending their money.
Yeah, that's the
But
thing.
you still got to coordinate the gift no matter what. I mean, look, I've got a situation where I've got a birthday, our anniversary, and Christmas all within like a 35-day period of time. And like from my standpoint, that's the most stress I can encounter on an annual basis. This guy triples that.
If you're a recently divorced woman fishing on Bumble and Tinder, you're probably not expecting a lot. Like, the guy probably hasn't been. Yeah, he doesn't even show up on Valentine's
Women,
Day.
you deserve more.
Do you think he's taking money from one girl's checking account and using that to buy the Valentine's gift for the second?
Maybe it's like
it's like a multi-level marketing situation here.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that a big miss? You're just a multi-level marketer.
It's just Don Lepre. He's got a pyramid going on. He's just using part of the checking account to pay off the last bit of obligations that he's
First
got.
wife is like your first investor. She gets paid first.
You want to know who the victims are in this story? The real victims is the ex-husbands, man.
Oh my!
Because they're probably getting taken to the cleaners. They lost half for a woman who falls for a dude on Bumble and opens a checking account with him within weeks. And he's having to give half his money to her, man. That's the victim. That's the sad part of the story.
Florida
Those
man.
guys deserve more.
Those guys deserve more. Well, here's to looking out for all of you out there. That's a good one that only the Ruthless Variety Program would highlight and take. You'll only hear first and only. Remember, our question of the day is, what should journos be doing with themselves? Should be running for
boarding planes to El Salvador. That's my vote.
It looks maybe like getting on Bumble and Tinder, because that might be an obligation that could satisfy some of the needs that you have standing in front of your window with barren landscapes on the walls. Anyway, fellas, I think we did it. You got to like and subscribe to the Ruthless Variety Program. Great show, fellas.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much to our listeners. We love seeing our subscriber count go up. So if you have not yet, go to the YouTube, hit the subscribe button, get on board. So until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you Thursday. Stay ruthless.